It always happens.
It was amazing. And then you see this Regency logo graphic come up on the screen. And then you see the WB logo, and the movie starts. And this movie starts hot. Let's talk about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the first of it, the first thing that I love about this movie, of course, Seagal and his carefree attitude as a cook, not knowing that he's a Navy SEAL at first, but then also just... I think the biggest thing for me is how much you don't know about Tommy Lee Jones and that whole crew that shows up and immediately shoots the highest ranking officer. Yes. It is one of the best setups.
It really is good.
And from there, it's off the walls. It's so good. And even the setup to that is good. There's no delay. Like, I always think of a movie as little segments. Like, I love this little segment. I love this segment. And Under Siege has so many good segments. I mean, it doesn't matter if you want to see the breast of Erika Leniak. It doesn't matter if you want to see Steven Seagal setting a bomb in a cake mug and setting the timer off in a microwave, or Tommy Lee Jones getting deafened by the ears and his little spiel that he does and just comedic genius through that whole scene. There are so many good things in this movie.
There's not a wasted scene in this movie. There's never a time we're like, okay, what are we doing here?
Right.
Everything serves a purpose, whether it's setting tension, whether it's filling in gaps, and there are some plot gaps. I'm fine with that. This movie doesn't need that. Now, we're talking about this movie on the assumption that you have seen it. If you have not seen Under Siege, this is not a podcast that's going to fill you in on the plot. Just know people have snuck onto the ship under the guise that it is the Admiral's birthday. And this is going to be a surprise party, which is once again a very brilliant fun. Like, of course, we can't talk to people about it because it's a surprise party.
Right.
And when the highest ranking officer below the admiral or captain is in there, he is where the buck stops. He's like, we don't want to tell the captain, so we're not going to. Right.
And I mean, of course, it's just like Adam said, there's plot holes, but it wouldn't be a great action movie if there weren't plot holes. You got to skip. You got to get through that. Yeah, and I think that just the setup and, everybody, again, how we mentioned before earlier, plays their part. Gary Busey.
Chewing scenery.
Easily. Krill. I mean, what a great Commander Krill. I mean, that is
a villain. You can't be a hero with that
villain name. Yeah, and I mean, Mannix. I remember coming out of this movie, too, and weeks on end, and of course, like when I saw it, I believe this, when I saw it, I immediately thinking, like, Mannix, man, that's such a badass.
It is a badass
and
name.
My last name being Hall, like, I was just like, man, why can't I have that Mannix name?
I used to feel that way about my first name, and I really wanted the name Zach.
Yeah? Okay.
Instead of Adam. Anyway, so this movie starts you off pretty hot. What I really like is they build the culmination of the initial shot that you mentioned, but that Mannix give the highest commanding officer in the mess hall after the party. They build that shot so perfectly.
Yeah.
Because shit's going down. You see this crowd of people enjoying it, so you just see their pure joy as you, as an audience member, get to be like, oh no.
Right.
And how Mannix decides that it's time to shoot him is so unexpected as an audience member, because you think, okay, they're going to come in, they're like, hey, everybody, we're taking over, everyone down. No. Mid-song.
Yeah.
Audience is rocking. They are crushing the game.
Bad Billy and the
Bail Jumpers.
Bail Jumpers are killing it.
They are crushing the game.
They get done with maybe their first set. Maybe they play. We only see one song, so we don't know how far they are into it. But it's just everybody's having a good time.
Yes.
And the one thing too that I love kind of is just these officers at the table are very stoic. Kind of just they see the enlisted men having fun, which they're okay with right now. Right. But they're still setting the tone of like, we're commanding officers. We need to calm ourselves, and it's just this thing of just like, man, they're running hot. Bad Billy and the Bail Jumpers are killing it right now. Tommy Lee Jones, no, this is the time. Everybody's having fun. Part the seas, guys. Let's see the highest ranking officer.
As if it's part of the show. He's like, hey, where's the... Well, let's all have some fun. Like, and you can see this guy. He's keeping his commanding officer face on, like Marcus said. So it's like, come on, let's have some fun. And boom, caps him with a dead shot right in the head, middle of the eyes. He's dead, and panic sets in the ship. Now, young Marcus in the Navy. let's take it back here. Could you have Casey Ryback were you to be on a ship overtaken by terrorists? How would you have? Do you think you could have?
If I were in Casey Ryback's spot as an ex-SEAL, are we talking?
No, you are Mark. You are Marcus.
Oh,
you are not an ex-SEAL with explosives training and close quarter combat. Do you think you would have? How would you have? How would you have handled that situation?
Well, so that's a good question. Let's take it back now because there is an actual scene where a couple of henchmen, actually go down to the boiler room, which is where I worked. I was an engineer.
There we go.
And this is a steam ship at the time, which I was on the Kitty Hawk and aircraft carrier, and we were only two, us and the Kennedy. I believe were the only two steam ships at that time.
Interesting. Okay.
And or carriers at that time
because this ship became decommissioned
in
Missouri shortly during the
and so when the henchmen go down there, we see the boiler room, which is exactly what we had. So I was an engineer, I was a boiler mate or machinist mate, and I think that we spent our life down in there, and our watches were 6 and 6, meaning we were 6 hours on, 6 hours off. Sometimes during wartime, we were 18 hours on and 6 hours off. So our life was spent in that boiler room. When we came up, it was only to eat probably and take a rest and then come right back down. But in this case, whenever two guys come down, like immediately, as apparently their chief was down there. I can't remember if that guy who they shot in the knees who was down there. Remember, hey guys, what are you doing down here? Where's Miss July at?
Yeah,
kind of like you wouldn't just let people down in the boiler room. And I can only imagine,
but they got in as caterers,
right.
So they were like,
so they're bringing food to the engineer right off. I would think, what the fuck are these guys doing down here? They,
interesting. Okay,
but I think as young Marcus, let's just bring it back. I think as me.
You're 19, 20?
19 at the time. So I would probably... I mean, God, I think, I'd be down in the boiler room.
So you would have been taken into that... where
I probably would have. I mean, maybe I would put up a fight with the guys coming down. But once I saw... Who knows? I've been in some situations where there's danger in my life, in real life, but... Who knows what I would do if MAC-10s were being drawn on me.
And once Tommy Lee Jones sets that ground rule where that guy... tries to save the day in the line where they're putting all the soldiers, and he kills the guy next to him. It's like anytime you... I mean, that's how you get a military person, right?
And the guy... Tommy Lee Jones not only says you, but the guy behind next to you is going to get killed,
So if you choose to be a hero, you're killing the person next to you. If you don't take down 16 guys, you and your buddy behind you. So, it's smart because it's like, how do you... You have this entire ship of highly trained individuals. Most of them through some sort of basic... There's not a person on that ship who can't handle themselves to some degree. So how do you put their other person's life in their hand, right? That's how you get everyone to calm down and listen to Tommy Lee Jones.
You know who I would love to hear their thoughts on it if they were put in this situation? Mark Wahlberg. what would Mark Wahlberg have done if he was placed
let's
on
just say that ship would have been set in dock quick.
Real quick.
Look up what Mark Wahlberg says about 9/11. So the ship gets taken over. There are some great moments. Casey Ryback gets on Commander Krill's nerves. Commander Krill doesn't understand that Casey Ryback is a badass. Casey Ryback punches Krill, and one of the most... A line that I completely forgot till Marcus and I rewatched it is after... right before Commander Krill puts Casey Ryback into the freezer, he says, "You hit like an F word," which really took me back. It is harsh to hear some of this 90s phrasing.
I think there's... And, I mean, we can think of Judgment Night, and too, where there's a lot of use. Like, in the 90s, I think this word, and, I mean, you can watch it, and if you've seen it, you probably know, but, we're not going to say it on here, but it's just like, that word is just as, it's just you're not a man. Like, it's not it's not degrading that specifically, and I hate talking around the subject, but it's just like it's just saying you are weak. Like it's just
and it's a shame that it was used so freely in the 90s to determine weakness. But so that was jarring to catch back onto, and then
after he spits in his bouillabaisse,
there's so many great moments when when Casey Ryback. I always find it fascinating when people build bombs in movies.
Oh, yeah.
And Casey Ryback has this great scene where he's dismantling warheads.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's building, I don't know, like the equivalent of like C4, like paste and go bombs.
Right. Because they have all they have are the flare things, those powder flares or whatever they are. And so now he's taking the tips of the warheads, melting them down into something, and I mean, all this time, just Jordan Tate is just standing right next to him.
So hard.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we talked about it too when we watched it last. It's like, how badass, and even as an adult, I think this now, you know, you're in the situation, and just like, you know how to do something that this woman, and this hot ass woman's just watching you, and it's just like, I wish that I knew something like that, other than putting in maybe the Mike Tyson code to get to Mike Tyson at the front. But I wish I knew how to do something as cool as that.
Ever heard of the Contra code, baby? Yeah. Up, down, left, right, BA start. Yeah, check this out. But even that only lasts for like 10 seconds.
Right.
And then they don't care.
Right.
Steven Seagal has a lot of opportunities to be badass, but I also think that's Steven Seagal's downfall as an action hero. I think when you never think of all Steven Seagal movies, and if you can think of one, let me know.
Please, yes.
When does he get his ass kicked?
Besides the coma.
Besides the coma, but that's shot.
Yeah.
Hand to hand, does Steven Seagal ever get his ass kicked in a movie to where he is like, oh, he got his ass kicked? You think of Arnold gets his ass kicked by the Predator.
Right.
Granted, it's an alien, I get it. Van Damme in Double Impact gets beat up several times. Kumites, all that stuff. But like in this movie, he's against highly trained people, and he never is in danger from hand-to-hand combat. I would just love to see. I think it would help.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely against any henchman, no. I mean, and most of the kills that he does are long range too. I mean, either with explosives or shots not close contact. I mean, the coolest part, of course, one of the coolest is when, you know, he's going down, you know, the ship, through the middle of the ship, and he's crossing guns and, you know, shooting people, just
killing so many people.
It's so fun, but it's just like, you don't ever see any worry in his eyes as far as what's going on. There's never the fall of the hero and the hero's journey that you see. There's never that fall.
And it's not just sequestered to this movie. It's all of his movies.
Yeah.
I want to see Seagal have to fend for himself against a superior fighter and use some type of wit to overcome this. There's a scene in this movie where Steven Seagal is planting an explosive on a submarine, and all of these henchmen are tossing grappling hooks down into the water, so they know how to fend off people to board the sub, I guess. He gets caught with a grappling hook, and this grappling hook catches him and rips up his back.
He gets a chunk taken out.
Big old chunk. You think muscle, maybe some bone damage. And then it shows this scene of Erica Liniak sort of coming to his rescue, and his face never moves. You can tell he's in pain, but it's like... And then she's treating it like he's going to die. She's like, oh, she's crying. She's like, oh, Casey, hang in there. But he never looks like he's in pain.
No.
I don't know. Show me you almost dying.
Yeah, that's all we want to see. I mean, he could have easily got shot somewhere, stabbed in the final boss fight, which we'll talk about too. But it's just like, there is never any harm really done. I mean, that is harm done to him, but he never shows that harm. It's not a mortal wound or anything too that you're going to be worried about.
Yeah.
But
And in these movies, there's always a hierarchy of villain. So there's like usually the main guy, there's a sidekick, and then there's 2 or 3 guys below that seem substantial to some degree, at least get individual death scenes. So in this movie, there's a really large guy. It's the guy that Tommy Lee Jones rips off raw meat of the roast to, and he eats it with his hand like an apple. I forgot his name and I didn't write it down, but he's hard to miss. He's huge, he's enormous, he's imposing. And he has all these individuals. He's the guy who kills the initial soldier that we were talking about that jumps out of line and tries to save the day. So you have this guy. He has individual kills. He's getting a lot of screen time. You think, this guy looks badass. Can't wait to see Steven and him go at it. He dies with a pistol shot to the chest from like 50 feet.
Yeah. And I mean, he had the advantage too. He was at a height advantage. He had everything too. And Seagal just pulls out a pistol and shoots him, and that's it. He drops.
And I get you're not going to put up much of a fight with Gary Busey. I'm fine with the way he died. I wish we could have seen his face or he got some type of speech, but fair is fair. He gets blown up. I know he's not going to be the guy to give Steven Seagal a fight, but this guy